Speed chess, lightning-fast hands, and intense action can be seen every day at Washington Square Park in New York City. Only a few minutes away, two towering giants in the world of chess, world champion Garry Kasparov and challenger Viswanathan Anand, are locked in classic chess combat for a $1 million prize. Neither side dares to blink for even a second, knowing that the first mistake could seal their doom. Welcome to New York City, site of the 1995 Intel World Chess Championship. Hello, I'm Maurice along with Grandmaster Danny King. Well, in a match that saw a record-breaking 8 consecutive draws to begin a World Championship, Danny, the games have really exploded.
It's been extraordinary. First of all, Anand took the lead. He outplayed the world champion in a beautiful game. But then Kasparov hit back with 2 straight wins. And at the end of 12 games, this match is wide open. Only 1 point separates the players.
Well, a point well taken, but in Game 11, Anand blundered horribly. And Danny, you got to wonder if he's going to be able to come back from such a devastating shock.
It's going to be tough. In a position where there was no real pressure on Anand, he made a horrible blunder. So we'll have to see how that affects his confidence this week. Well, on the 107th floor of the World Trade Center, it was standing room only. The crowd set for Game 13. The players entering the booth and taking their places.
Well, Kasparov, a little bit amused here because the king and queen were actually set up the wrong way round.
And Kasparov adjusting the 2 pieces there as arbiter Karol Jarecki looks on. Anand with the white pieces, Kasparov with the black pieces, and Anand needing to win to recover from last week's devastating loss.
Okay, so he's 1 point down, and last week, well, what swings in fortune we saw there. Anand took the lead, and then Kasparov hit straight back with 2 wins.
Well, at least Anand was able to stop the blood flow by drawing Game 12.
Yeah, that was very important for him. So he's regained some of his confidence, but I tell you, in that final game of last week, both players looked so tired. They looked punch drunk. Anything could happen this week.
Well, Anand starting off the game with his favorite move, his pawn to e4. He was able to win with this last week, Danny, but Kasparov surprised him by playing the dragon defense.
Yeah, Game 11 last week was such a shocker for Anand. He had to face the dragon variation of the Sicilian. Incredibly sharp. Kasparov was obviously so well prepared, and Anand came unstuck and made a horrible blunder.
And wondering now if Kasparov will play the same variation. Kasparov known to be a tremendous theoretician, but the dragon was not in his repertoire, and he stunned Anand last week by playing it.
Well, at least Anand has had the weekend to prepare for this game, so what has he got lined up?
And so far, the players repeating the exact same moves from that fated game, Game 11 last week, and Kasparov just keeping his cool, continuing the dance, knight out to f6, attacking the pawn on e4, Anand responding with knight to c3.
Well, this is the critical point. Will Kasparov play his old favorite, the Najdorf variation, or go for this new, sharp, aggressive system, the dragon? And he's done it again. He's played the dragon.
Well, Danny, you've got to be impressed by the fact that this guy is playing on this level, an opening that he's never played before. I mean, this is a $1 million match, and he's throwing out something that he simply can't be as used to as his old favorite Najdorf.
That's right. This is a brave decision for Kasparov. He knows if he can win this game, well, he'll have a tremendous chance of taking the championship again.
Well, Anand, after blundering in Game 11, has now played a different variation. We jump ahead down to move 12, and Anand playing a quite different setup, something that he has prepared. He had to wonder where the bomb was going to fall, and he played this new move, knight captures on c6.
Well, this is pretty irregular stuff, and Kasparov must be wondering if he's falling into a trap.
Well, not only that, Danny, he hardly ever plays this opening, so will he be able to solve the problems?
And in this position, Kasparov spent quite a lot of time just thinking everything through. It's not easy, but he managed to come up with a great strategy.
Well, if we jump ahead to move 20, we see Kasparov there rocking back and forth in his chair, sensing that he had dealt with the problem successfully, and then he came up with the magnificent move, pawn to c4, sacrificing a pawn.
Well, you saw Kasparov just glancing up there at Anand as if to say, well, okay, matey, what you got against that? Anand under incredible pressure now. His king is trapped in the middle of the board. That's the worst place for it to be. Compare it with Kasparov's king, safely behind 3 pawns. There we go, Anand's king, it would love to castle, but the black queen on b6 cutting down, preventing it from castling. Not only that, the center is exploding, ready for Kasparov to storm through against the king.
That was a huge move, but a few moves later, Kasparov played an even more spectacular move, knight to e4.
Well, that knight, of course, can be taken by the pawn. There's also Kasparov's rook that can be taken by a bishop, but the world champion thinks he's got it all worked out.
And Anand sat there realizing that this was just too much of a body blow, and the more he analyzed, the more he realized that he was just dead. So when Kasparov returned to the room, he resigned to give Kasparov a 2-game lead in the match.
Well, let's just take a look at exactly why Anand did resign this position. The black knight has come into the center of the board, not only attacking white's queen, but threatening a checkmate on the g3 square. So that knight in the center must be taken. There we go. But this leaves the way open for black's rooks to crash through. The rook comes to f6, checking the white king. The only safe square that the king has is the e1 square, only square. But now, the next black rook comes crashing through, checking the white king. And not only that, attacking the bishop on c4. White's king caught in the middle of the board, just runs over there to the d1 square, but now, rook takes bishop, a very simple move, which just leaves white's king wide open. The threat is rook to d6, winning white's queen. King c2, practically the only move, and now the next rook comes down, attacking white's queen. The white queen can't take the rook because it's defended by the black queen, and therefore white's queen is lost. It can't move away because the king is in check. A deadly attack from Kasparov.
So after going down a point in the match, Kasparov roared back, scoring 3 wins in 4 games to take a commanding 7.5 to 5.5 lead into game 14. With the dragon responsible for 2 straight wins with the black pieces, we asked Kasparov what effect this fire-breathing variation had on his opponent.
I'm sure it's a very unpleasant surprise, and now it's time for him to show the character.
Here in New York City, there was plenty of chess action taking place out in the streets, as well as 107 floors up at the top of the World Trade Center. Well, game 14, Kasparov with the white pieces, Anand with the black pieces. And the question was, Danny, was Anand going to be able to come back from a devastating crush in the previous game 13?
It's going to be very tough. He's 2 points down, but he still has enough time to fight back, so this game is crucial.
A critical game for Anand, and the game has begun. Kasparov getting his bearings, having a devastating advantage in the match, and now playing his move, pawn to e4.
Well, so far in the match, Anand has had real problems facing this move. His favorite opening, the open Spanish, has really been refuted by Kasparov. So we see here, he's going in a completely different direction. He's played the so-called center counter defense, and Kasparov, that telltale sign, he's taken off his watch, and that means he's confused.
But capturing on d5 was Kasparov. It turns out that Kasparov had never played this opening in his life. So Anand has found a weakness in Kasparov's play, and it was shown here. Kasparov playing some strange moves, and when we flash ahead, you see Kasparov play this move f4, Danny.
Well, this is ultra aggressive, but in this position, I don't know if it's really in place, because it's not easy for white to break through. And if he doesn't, then this structure looks rigid. White's pieces are blocked behind these pawns, so I don't know. That looks like a very strange move to me.
Well, this f4 move, Kasparov played it confidently, but it really did not look so attractive. If you look at this move, it seems to block all of white's pieces in.
Yeah, in particular, note the bishop on c1, blocked in by the pawn. But also, white's king can be rather weak. Those pawns create a vacuum. And so, this is quite a pleasant move for Anand to meet.
Well, Kasparov continued playing some extremely bizarre moves. It looked as if he was very uncomfortable, and in this position, he played the move bishop to c4. A very strange move in this position, Danny.
Well, okay, the knight and the bishop attacking the pawn on f7, but Anand dealt with this very easily. There you go, he's just moved his pawn up, blocking the attack of the bishop. And then, well, Kasparov retreated the bishop. He found that he could make no headway with his attack.
Well, then Anand played the move h5, and Kasparov played another bishop move, bishop to e3, and that still didn't look very strong then.
Yeah, I mean, note that bishop is actually blocked in by white's pawns, and I liked Anand's last pawn move. That's a great idea, securing the bishop on this f5 square. So Anand has blocked these center pawns, and Kasparov's attack is getting nowhere.
And then the bishop going back to g1, an ugly square for the world champion. Anand castling, and it really looked as if black was in control of this position.
Yeah, although white has a space advantage, he can't really do anything with it. The pawns are really rigid, and Anand has excellent play with this rook in the center of the board against the center.
So Anand now in control of the position, and then he played a big move, knight into d5, centralizing his knight onto a strong square, attacking Kasparov. If we look at it here on the graphics, the knight hopping off the f6 square and jumping in to d5.
The knight on a great square in the center of the board. It's hitting white's knight on c3 as well as the white pawn on f4, so Kasparov had to exchange.
And he offered a draw on that move, but Anand rejected it and captured back on d5.
Kasparov obviously dissatisfied with his position, and Anand knows he has some advantage here. His piece is very well centralized indeed.
Garry Kasparov under heavy pressure as the challenger Viswanathan Anand has completely outplayed him from the opening moves.
This is an extraordinary turn of events because Kasparov only loses one game in 25 with the white pieces. So Anand has a great chance to cause an upset.
A win would bring him right back in the match, and he's got the position to do it.
Although white's knight in the center of the board looks very powerful indeed. In fact, this can be kicked by black's pawn, and it's the center square, e4, which black is looking to control, which gives him the advantage.
And that last move, f6, chasing the knight out the middle of the board, Kasparov forced to retreat, and he is not happy. And if we jump ahead, we see that he's taken the jacket off, and he is fighting back like a world champion, trying to gain some space on the left side of the board. And then he played a spectacular move, sacrificing his knight to e5.
Well, this was brilliant. He knows that if he stays passive, he's just going to lose control of the game. So he's fighting. Knight comes to e5. It can be taken by the black pawn, but then all hell breaks loose in the position. The bishop takes the rook. The rook's line to the black queen is opened up. Well, just total confusion.
And a mad position had broken out on the chessboard, and both players with very little time on the clock to think about their moves. Anand feeling as if the game had turned against him, and he just ignored the knight and played the move queen to e6.
Well, at first sight, this looked like such a powerful move, just ignoring all these tactics, trying to keep his strategic positional control over the position. But it was here that Kasparov found an incredible move to keep the tactics going.
And Kasparov, with his pieces all busy, played an amazing move, g4, splitting his king side wide open.
What Kasparov is trying to do is break through to black's weak pawns in front of his king. But the big problem is he exposes his own king, so this is a really double-edged strategy.
Well, after capturing on g4, Kasparov was assaulting the pawn on f6, a very aggressive attack, so Anand had to defend, and then Kasparov played a thunderous move, his rook crashing in on the 7th rank, attacking a pawn.
Well, this is superb. Not only attacking a pawn, but hitting the bishop next to Anand's king, so all hell is breaking loose.
With pandemonium on the chessboard, and if we flash ahead to black's 32nd move, Anand was trying to keep his control of the position, and then he played an amazing move, pawn up to g5.
Well, this was extraordinary because just when you thought, well, he had to defend, but he's attacking with his pawn, but that's such a risky move because he's exposing his king. The situation completely unclear now. If one of the bishops is taken, then white's rook crashes down in front of Anand's king. But now this last move, bishop to g4 from Kasparov, an excellent move, exchanging off Anand's powerful attacking bishop. And it seems as though Kasparov is beginning to get control. His queen coming out there, offering exchanges.
And Anand did exchange, and Kasparov captured back with his rook. Rook taking the queen there, and Kasparov looked as if he had weathered the worst.
Well, indeed, it looks pretty good for white now. That rook on c7 in a beautiful position, hitting the pawn on a7.
And Kasparov bringing his bishop back to f2, and Anand having lost control of the game, now bringing his knight over to b5, attacking the rook, but the rook just moved over to b7.
Yeah, that rook maintaining its aggressive post, hitting the black pawn on a7. Anand trying to counterattack in the center with his rook, but now Kasparov came up with a great move. He pushed the pawn forward, just letting his rook cover laterally. That's a great idea.
And now Anand, feeling that he had completely thrown the game away, started moving very quickly, exchanging off on g4, and then hesitating for just a heartbeat before bringing his rook to the open line, playing the rook to c8.
Well, Anand with about 2.5 minutes left to make his last few moves to the time control, so this is not easy. He's down on time.
And Kasparov with a huge move, rook to d7, attacking the pawn on d5.
Well, Anand trying to counterattack with his rook, but it's no good at all. Kasparov just taking that pawn. He's now a clear pawn up. He's hitting the knight, and this is a winning position.
Anand, thoroughly disgusted with himself, resigned on the spot. Later, Kasparov said he could win this position in his sleep. Well, that second straight win gave him a 3-point advantage. The score now standing at 8.5 to 5.5.
What would you have played if you would have accepted his knight sacrifice?
I definitely would take on e5, but I didn't have, believe me, I didn't have a clear idea what I'm supposed to do. I think that the best, maybe the best chance was to take on e5, take on d8, and to play g4. And I think after check on f2, I mean, I can take on g6. I mean, that was my own, you know, knight e5 is not a move of, you know, of great inspiration. That's, I can improve the position. Also, I could get some active counterplay. And I had some serious doubts that he would take the knight because he wanted to keep position safe and to put, you know, continue to press my position without any risk. And I think queen e6 is a very, very serious mistake because suddenly after g4, I mean, white is not worse, you know, because all these segments of my position, you know, pawn on a6, rook on c1, that did not work. I mean, suddenly they all went in place. I mean, all my pieces, you know, just they were better than his pieces. And the only weakness on e4 was more than compensated by weakness on f6, g6, potential weakness on a7. I mean, I had my quality of my pieces so dramatically improved after g4 that, I mean, you know, we both were under the impression that white had to defend the position. It would be a long, long defense, maybe successful, maybe not. And then when I played g4, I took on g4 with a knight. I mean, I looked at the position, and then I looked at Vishy, and he also looked at me, and we both realized that you know, that was a turning point. You know, he just, you know, he lost track, and instead of having comfortable position with advantage, he had to struggle with so many threats that came from all white pieces, and I don't know. I think that maybe it's very hard to say. I think maybe knight e4 instead of bishop g7 was better. I mean, knight e4, knight e3, knight g3 check, maybe. That was a possibility. I mean, I don't know. It was very difficult even for me to calculate. I realized I'm not worse. I realized that if I will not blunder anything, you know, just like mate on f2, you know, I'm not going to lose the game. And for me, it was the most important discovery, because I know I went to this game having very strange, you know, feelings. You know, I wanted to win, but at the same time, I wanted to have, you know, to play quiet because I knew that any draw, you know, is in fact in my favor, and this troubled mind played a very negative role in the opening because I played so poorly, you know, that at move 15, black had a substantial position advantage, and I think that. I think knight d5 instead of knight d5, c5 was probably even stronger. I mean, that was as I was most afraid. After knight d5, black is also better, but white had some chances to struggle. There is an element of unfairness sometimes in chess because, you know, I don't think he deserved to lose today, but you can't judge, you know, whether there is the sadism or whatever. You know, just chess is the very tough psychological warfare, you know, and it's as in any warfare, you have winners, you have losers, and to lose even after the good battle, that's an element of whatever it is now, and it's extremely tough for psychology of the player, because you are on your own, and you can't blame anybody when you lost a very tough game in the time trouble, because I mean it's up to you to make a decision. It's up to you to take all the consequences. In fact, I think he's playing much better than he showed in this match. I have some feelings that he was over-prepared, and he is a great player. I mean, he has a great intuition, and probably he had too much of knowledge, probably his coaches wanted him to stick too much for strategy, and that's why probably they narrowed the field where he can operate, and probably it killed some of his inspiration, which he was very dangerous with. And I think that the first 8 games of the match proved for me that Anand was not playing kind of chess I expected, and I think he was more dangerous. And he's playing the chess that he would have great difficulties to escape and to come back to his normal kind of game. I think this is a purely again, very hard to judge, but it's a very serious, in my opinion, mistake of someone who is in charge of, let's say, ideology in Anand's team. I think that the people that made the selection of the strategy, they did it too much for me, ignoring the qualities of Anand that, in my opinion, cannot be shown, by adopting this strategy.
That's the last question. Was he playing more like Karpov?
Yes, I think that's the strategy looks very much familiar with what Karpov did, but for Karpov was absolutely natural. This is when you play the World Championship match, after all, just forget about the preparation, forget about the teams that fill you with all ideas. It comes back to your natural strengths. And I think that Anand is missing some of the most important components of his natural strengths. And the first 8 games, as I said, has proved for me that he was, in my opinion, misled by just choosing this track.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the World Trade Center, where those who were unable to make the games live were able to follow them over the internet. The games being broadcast online to chess fans while the players were set for the next game, and Anand down 3 points. And the question was he going to be able to stop the skid? Kasparov felt that there were some problems with how Anand approached this match from the very start. Well, game 15, Anand with the white pieces, Kasparov with the black pieces, and Danny, could Anand really be in the mood to fight today?
Well, it's going to be very tough indeed. He's just suffered 2 straight losses, and so his confidence must be at rock bottom.
Well, still playing his favorite move, pawn to e4, and Kasparov responding with the Sicilian defense, and you just had to figure that Kasparov was going to test him again in that dragon variation.
Well, Anand has had a day off to recuperate, so perhaps he's got something prepared.
Well, Anand not looking particularly excited about this game. He's going to have to get up off his high horse and play some moves, and he's played the move d4, very standard. Kasparov giving him a look there and exchanging the pawns on d4. Anand capturing back with the knight.
My goodness, I wouldn't want to be in the glare of Kasparov. He looks pretty ferocious when he's in that kind of mood.
And looking very confident is Kasparov. He's won 2 games in a row, and a packed audience wondering if Anand was going to be able to slow down this Kasparov train.
Well, this is the critical position. Anand just bringing his knight out to defend the pawn in the center of the board. Now, will Kasparov once again play the dragon variation? Well, he's just giving you a little wry smile.
And staring down Anand, and he has played the move g6. This move has won him 2 games so far in this match. We flash ahead, we see that Anand had prepared something new for this game, but it didn't seem to be particularly effective. He played this passive move, Danny, knight to d5, offering all sorts of exchanges.
That's right. Instead of going for an attack on Kasparov's king, He's offering to trade off into an endgame. We'll see the move in a moment. Knights into the center of the board to d5. Now look, Kasparov just exchanges queens, so we're just getting a mass exchange of pieces in the center of the board, which is not really the way to put pressure on the world champion.
And Kasparov continuing with all these exchanges, and then he played the move knight to e3, attacking both bishops, and Kasparov knew that he was in absolutely no danger, almost bored, saying, what kind of position is this? And Anand admitted that it was just a draw, and that effectively was sealing Anand's fate, Danny.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to come back from this situation, but Anand looked tired, and it was as though he was just taking a time out in this game today.
Well, Kasparov in the driver's seat with only 5 games to go. He has a 3-point lead, an almost insurmountable advantage at this level.
Well, after the game, Kasparov went backstage to the VIP room just to explain his thoughts about this incredible opening, the Dragon, that has brought him such success.
Well, enter the Dragon, an opening that is feared by even the top Grandmasters in the world.
Well, this is a side variation of the highly complex Sicilian defense. It's denoted by this pawn move at the side of the board, g6, and the bishop coming out onto this long diagonal. That is the key to this opening. It's so powerful, so dangerous. It radiates right across the board, and white must always be so careful.
Well, Danny, the thing that makes this opening so exciting, though, is that white is also trying to take black's head off.
The king's castle on opposite wings, which means we're going to get a very tense fight. It's like a race. Who is going to break through? Now, this is the way that Kasparov recommended that Anand should have played. White throws the pawn forward on the right side, pawn to g4, initiating a charge with the pawns, trying to break open lines.
But this is what makes it such a deadly opening. White castles on the other side from black, and this way, both sides will be attacking on opposite sides. You see an exchange there in the middle, and white pointing at the right, but black is going after the left-hand side of the board.
So black's queen comes out to this very aggressive position, hitting the white pawn on a2. It has to advance, had to be protected. And now black swings a rook across to this open c-file. This is where black is generating his counterplay, on the files in front of white's king. It's very dangerous. But now, white advances on the right side of the board. That is really the only way to break through. Now, we saw the kind of move that Anand played was moving the knight into the center, which just forced these exchanges, and really the position is simplifying down to a draw. Kasparov said the only way, let's just move the pieces back for a moment. Kasparov said the only way to break through is to keep pushing with the pawns on the right-hand side of the board. You see the white pawn moving up there, and white is trying to break open the lines in front of black's king. Of course, black has counterplay on the left side of the board against white's king. It's just such a double-edged situation. Anything could happen, but Anand must try it if he's going to break through.
Well, Anand played a lot less aggressively, and as a result, the world champion was able to score an amazing 2.5 with the black pieces. Later, Kasparov commented on this fire-breathing opening variation that served him so well in this match.
If white plays castle and then white take on this position can happen if white moves order. And here, if white plays queen b1, queen cannot go on a5 because of knight d5. That's why black plays queen c7, let's say g4, rook c8, h4, queen a5, a3, rook b8. And this is an important theoretical position. Here there are a few moves. They can play h5. There's a move queen g5. It's Ivanchuk's introduction. It looks very strong for white. But that's exactly the position. That's debating. I mean, there are many complicated lines in this position. But I played few games recently. For instance, with Sofia Polgar, won two very nice games. G4 and take. Yeah, castle. Queen a5, a3, rook c8. I mean h4, rook b8, h5, b5, h takes h6, b4 is bad for white. I mean, this is a theoretical position, very complicated. I mean, I wouldn't say more. I mean, I spent some time, believe me, analyzing this. It's very complicated. But white should go for this. I mean, this is the way to play dragon, you know? You have an open line, you should try to mate. I mean, if you play knight d5, yeah, knight d5, that's not a move. Yeah, just to but that's a line. And Here, I mean, black could be in grave danger immediately. You know, if black doesn't make right move, they can die immediately because everything is open and there are many threats. But that's a position. That's how white should play.
So Garry, are you prepared to state publicly that on Monday, given the chance, you'll play the dragon again?
That would be great. That would be great.
No, I don't think that the World Championship match is the good place to make all sorts of bets that you eventually propose now, or kind of it's not also a place for brave statements. It's a place to go and win the title. Now, obviously, there are very good chances I will decide to play dragon again, because there are very good. No, there are good chances, and there are many let's say positive signs for choosing dragon again. And also there is a famous advice given by Capablanca that he liked saying that I always play the openings that gave me good results, practical results, irrespective of the position that arose in the middle of the game. Now, the positions were not bad, but the results of that opening are even better. In fact, this opening completely changed the turn of this. Turned the table in this match, changed the character of the fight, and I'm very happy that I found such a good opening, preparing for this match. But again, it depends very much. Monday game depends on the results of tomorrow's game. And we shall see what is going to happen tomorrow before I'll make my choice what to play or not to play on Monday.
So the match all but decided in the last 3 games. Later, Kasparov commented on some speculation that Anand was given bad advice on how to play the match.
You could have 10 advisors, 100 advisors, 1 advisor, no advisors, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to make a decision, and that's good about chess. This is pure game of responsibility. You take full responsibility for any action, especially for accepting or declining draw offer. And he probably, in game 11, he lost a little bit of, orientation, and he was severely punished for it. Before this match, I played 164 games in the world for the World Championship title. 164 games. Now today, it was my 179th game. Now, that gives you some experience, and if for the professional player, I could analyze this experience, and I was ready to make some corrections in my my strategy during the match, and I had some ideas prepared in my sleeve that I thought we would not expect, but I faced a very strong opposition, very strong team that prepared my opponent, and it was not easy for me to find the right strategy. This is the most important thing in the match is not only result. This is a kind of tendency, and I felt it's changing because he spent much of his ammunition at just after game 9. In the first games, he was dominating the field. He played all sorts of new openings, thrown some of the new ideas, and he was running out of ammunition. And I felt now I'm coming back in the game. Okay, I lost 1 game, but first I had my great idea for game 10, and then I knew now after game 10 we're going to change completely the opening strategy. I think the problem is he wanted to to take revenge. He wanted to go. It's too much. And okay, I made the same mistake when I played first match with Karpov. Now it probably happens. I was surprised that with so many advisors he was not advised just stop, and now let's do something. Let's reconsider the strategy. And again, it's probably your only experience that can tell you what's right, what's wrong. And I said he had many advisors, but I had 164 games for the World Championship title played before.
Well, game 16. Kasparov with the white pieces, Anand with the black pieces. And Danny, it's a tall order for Anand to come back in these last few games down 3 points.
It's true, but the closer Kasparov gets to the finishing tape, the more nervous, the more jittery he's going to become. So I think, actually, Anand has a chance to try and get back at Kasparov, at least to try and salvage some honor from this match.
Well, a difficult road ahead of him, needing 4.5 points out of 5 to unseat the champion. A big crowd was in attendance, seeing whether or not the challenger would be able to do it. and Kasparov playing the move e4 in this game.
Well, once he got into his stride in this match, Kasparov consistently opened with his pawn to e4. It heralds a really aggressive struggle in the opening.
And look at this move, c5, that Anand played. This is the first time he's played this move in this match.
Yeah, it's a little bit unusual. You know, he's actually playing Kasparov's own opening against Kasparov. It's like a taste of his own medicine. It's a very unusual strategy.
Well, it also seems as if the Sicilian defense is a pretty sharp opening to play when he needs a win.
Very much so. So Anand, obviously not backing down. He's not going to coast in. He really wants to give Kasparov a good fight.
Well, Anand in this position normally played the knight to c6, but in this game he played a6, which is Kasparov's favorite move, and the champions seemed befuddled by this.
True, he's befuddled, but also slightly amused because Kasparov has been playing this move for, well, over 20 years. He has so much more experience than Anand, so that's a really surprising decision.
But he decided to play all the same moves that Anand did, now in his 15th move of the game, having a terrible time trying to figure out something new, and he played the move bishop to b6, attacking the queen.
So the queen attacked, it must drop back, but this is exactly the same as Anand played in one of the previous games in the match, but Anand in that case was white, so it's following this previous game exactly, the bishop just retreating all the way back into the center of the board.
Well, what can Anand possibly gain by this? After all, Kasparov knows this opening inside out.
Well, I think this is a very clever psychological ploy from Anand. He's using Kasparov's own opening. Now, will Kasparov really want to show some of his top secret analysis? You know, he'd be refuting his own opening, so Kasparov will be thinking in the future, not just about this game. So he won't want to give away too many secrets, and indeed, he's just played a very solid line. He's not playing to try and refute the opening.
Well, obviously, there's no real contact between the two forces. There's this no man's land on the 5th rank, and this is not your typical Kasparov, who's normally hyper-aggressive and trying to prove something with the white pieces.
And he obviously doesn't feel too comfortable with the situation. It has really thrown him. You know, Kasparov is normally such a well-prepared player, and he obviously didn't expect this opening at all.
Well, Anand returning to the board, and Kasparov offered him a draw. Well, that has to be considered a success for Anand, playing with the black pieces, so he accepted the draw. But one has to wonder, with the match situation as it is, Danny, was that a wise decision?
Yeah, slightly surprising that Anand could have played on it. It was a very balanced position, but he could have tried a little bit.
Well, with Kasparov needing only another half point to retain his title, the question was Anand just bowing out of this match?
Who offered the draw?
Him, as always, yeah. I haven't offered any draws in this match. Just, he's offered all 15 or something, so we're keeping that straight.
It seems like neither of you have much energy at the moment. Would it be better if you could just resign the match and go home?
It's a loaded question. Might be tempted to take you up on it, but actually, I think I might have one more shot at it. Let's say.
Do you think you might have 4 more shots at it?
Well, let me have the first shot, and then I'll worry about the second one. So.
What do you think about the Scheveningen variation? Have you changed your opinion about it after the game?
Well, I thought I'll show him how to play it, so because he had some difficulties in the 9th game. So.
Do you think there should be a rule that players cannot agree a draw in less than 40 moves?
Okay, I understand the last 2 games weren't exactly thrillers, but you know, you can't stipulate something like this. A lot of the Scotch draw, for instance, was a perfectly normal one and finished quite quickly, but you can't possibly just play rook e4, e5, e4, e5 for 27 moves. So, you know, I don't think that's very... I mean, you just have to face it. A draw is a legitimate result in chess, unlike other sports, and you just got to live with it.
In other sports, it's not possible just to, in the middle of battle, just to agree to draw and go home. What's your response to that?
I don't have a specific response to that. I mean, you have agreed draws and quickly. You've made quick draws. I've made quick draws. We've all made quick draws. You understand?
That's different in a match.
I understand, but you know, a draw is a legitimate result. I mean, like today, what could we do? After knight e4, the position is equal.
What do you plan to do after the World Chess Championship?
A, I'll worry about that in a couple of days, and B, you know, it's okay. Assuming I lose the match, then I'm it's another 2-year thing with lots of qualification events and so on. It's just no point thinking about it now.
And in past few press conferences, Gary's been critical of your team, saying that perhaps they've destroyed your intuition. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, I mean, I don't think I should blame my team for this. I agree that my play after game 11 lacked some freshness in many instances. But okay, I mean, I really think I could use the experience in a World Championship. There were many stages which I simply didn't know what decision to take, to up the ante, to stay calm. The 11th game, for instance, I thought it'd be nice to sort of work myself back into shape by refusing a draw, and just because I understand it's a drawn position. And I just decided, and then I missed this move rook c2. In a way, I don't know which is stranger, that he gives me a chance to be better in such a drawn ending, or that I miss it. But no, I really feel I made many mistakes due to inexperience, and well, next time around at least I'll do it differently.
Do you think that game 11 has been playing on your mind through the course of the match?
It was certainly an expensive error. I mean, I didn't think about it, but maybe, at some level it just bothers you. That's possible. But it's certainly very expensive, very childish error to make, because I defended so many so many bad positions early in the match. Not bad, but, positions where you really have to find the best move and so on. And I did a good job, and then you just give him a point for free. And yeah, I mean, it was certainly not a pleasant experience.
Okay, thanks very much.
Well, for Danny King, I'm Maurice Ashley, saying so long from the World Trade Center in New York City.